Okay, so got this counter to do with this slate tile, 4-inch slate tile, and a little bit of a backsplash there, and this sink here. This countertop is all going to be in a real slate tile, and just as a cautionary note, slate is not an ideal surface for a countertop. It is very porous, it's soft, and can flake off. So the reason we're putting it in this area here is because it is in an outside area adjacent to a swimming pool, and it's going to see very little use. So this is what you wanted, and so this is what I'm doing. And just, you know, if the counter is gonna see a lot of use, it should not be used as a surface to cover the counter. So this is just a cautionary note. So anyway, and then this is also going to be very well sealed, but still it's not a good product to be put on a countertop. But anyway, I got lucky with this the layout on here. We did some careful measurements, and at the front where I'm putting these tiles here actually ended up being exactly the size of a tile, full tile, and then I'm going to lay it out so you get the same piece on either side, and then the back end is going to have a full tile around the edge and a small piece in the back. So these slate tiles are ungauged, and what that means is they are not all the same thickness. In fact, there's quite a large variation in thickness, but I will try and minimize that as I'm installing the tile. I won't be able to get it completely out, so it will not be a perfectly flat countertop, but that's the desired appearance here. And also, they are not all exactly the same size, so the grout lines will not be perfectly straight. So this is the cabinet under here is a custom-made cabinet, and the cabinet maker installed the plywood on the cabinet, and he also installed the Durock and prepped it for me. The Durock is installed on a bed of thinset mortar, and so I'm just installing the slate tile. There is a front edge of this countertop with slate also installed on that, and what I'm doing to support that so that it doesn't slide down is I have a piece of ledger board in place underneath to prevent that from sliding down. Then on the side where it's missing is because the thinset is set up enough that I could remove it, but you're going to have to do that to support the tile as you're installing it. The area around the sink here is kind of like a focal point, and on the two sides need to be cut. So you want to make sure when you're doing something like this, you take your time and you select the right tile. I just changed the tile that I was going to mark there because I didn't quite think it would work well. And take your time, put it in place, mark it, and then cut it, but just take your time and don't rush it, because these tiles all it needs to look right here, especially more than anywhere else. So never rush your marking and fitting and measuring. sides of the sink had cut tiles, and when you cut the tiles on the wet saw, you're going to have square edges. So to make the cut edges look like the factory edges, I stoned it with my stoning tool there, and I was lucky enough that I could just approximate the look of the other edges by just using my stoning tool. Sometimes you might have to get out a polisher, or you might have to get some other tools out to achieve this. I'm using an 1/8 of an inch grout line on these tiles, and I was able to do that with this particular tile, but sometimes the variation in size of the tiles is so large that you're going to have to open up the grout line to 3/16 or even 1/4 of an inch. So do some careful layout before you decide on a grout line, and make sure that once you start, you can maintain that grout line. This is very important, because with the tiles that are not exactly the same size and vary in size, sometimes more than other times, you may have to make sure that you pick the right size grout to make it work throughout the whole installation. I'm going to go around here now, finish that up. And this here and that there will go quick. So most of the time is actually spent, because this is a small area, but there's a lot of work around the sink here to get it exactly right. So most of the time is actually spent getting this sink area right. And the rest of the field tile actually goes down pretty quickly. So that's why this most of this video is just focusing on this sink area. So now that the sink area is done, I'm going to move on to the field tile. Both sides of the sink. What I'm doing here first is I'm going to flat side, spread the thinset with the flat side of the trowel, and then I am going to notch it with the notch side of the trowel, and then I'll start laying the tiles in. And because these tiles are not all exactly the same thickness, sometimes I'll pick up a tile and put a little thinset on the back of it. If it's too, if the tile is a little bit thin, just to bring it up a little bit more to level with the rest of the tiles. Now the thicker tiles really can't do much about it, but the thinner tiles you can backbutt a little bit to make them more in line with the surface of the rest of them. Another thing you want to bear in mind when working tiles with tiles that are very porous is, because these tiles have not been sealed yet, I'm going to seal them prior. The tile's going to set, and then I'll seal it, and then I'll grout it. So I'm working with tiles that have not been sealed, so you want to make sure you keep it as clean as possible. If you get any thinset on the tile, wash it off. Do not let it set on the towel because then it'll be very difficult to remove. It's not, you don't have as much of a problem with a ceramic tile or a porcelain tile because they're not really porous at all. But with these kinds of tiles, with the travertine or a marble tile or something that's very porous, you want to make sure you work as clean as you possibly can, and any thinset or residue that gets on the tile, remove it as soon as possible. Do not let it set on the tile. Okay, so there's going to be 2 rows of these going up here, and then a pencil. Let's see where I got all these marks here. That's going to have I cut all these corners out. These little metal insets like that. So that's what I'm going to do now. So even though these tiles are not all exactly the same size, I want the top edge of this little splash to be perfectly straight. Because if it's wavy and if it's crooked, it's just not going to look right. So I'm putting a line as a reference, and then I am going to, as I put up the little splash, I'm going to shim it to make sure that everything is perfectly straight on the very top. Here I'm using the same 1/4 inch notch trowel with the same thinset, but as you can see, I've covered the entire countertop so that I keep it clean. Like I was saying before, this tile is very porous, so you want to make sure you keep it as clean as possible. Okay, so all these tiles for this little backsplash here are all individual tiles, 2 inch by 2 inch, and they're very irregular in size and thickness. So I'm using like some yellow wedges, which are a little bit bigger, and as I'm going along, I see that it's not going to work, so I switch to the red wedges, which are a little bit smaller. And even further along, you're going to see that I change spaces again. And this is something that you know, if you're doing something, then you see that it's not working, change it until you find something that does work. Don't commit to something that it doesn't seem to be working. And then if you make a mistake, like I just did here, there's supposed to be a little insert there, and you know, just pay attention to what you're doing as you're doing it, and check your work so that it comes out nice. As you can see here, I'm making adjustments to make sure that the top is perfectly flat, because I'm going to be putting a pencil on the top of this, and when it's all said and done, I want it to look all straight on the top. So you can still make further adjustments as you put in the pencil liner on, but it's very important that the top of this be straight so that the whole thing looks right. I am applying a thinset to the back of each piece of pencil so that I try and minimize the amount of thinset that oozes through on top of the wall, and that way I can also make sure that I get good contact on the when I place it onto the wall. I get good contact, and I know it's not gonna fall off. Okay, so that's all the tile installed, and I'm gonna let everything set, and then this is gonna be sealed and then grouted. 2 coats of seal have been applied. I don't have a video of that, unfortunately, and now I'm gonna cut the hole for the faucet and then grout. If anyone is interested, I have several videos on my YouTube page explaining exactly how to use a claw bit. So if you like, you can go check out those videos, and I'll explain exactly how to go about cutting a hole in the tile. Now it's time to grout. Now, although this tile has been sealed, it still remains porous, and the sealer also acts as a grout release. I'm using a sanded grout here, but you don't want to let the grout sit on the tile for too long, because otherwise it's going to be really difficult to get the grout haze off it. So just make sure you're on top of this, and spread a small section. Check it out, make sure it's all filled, and then wash it off. Just using plain cold water. And also the type of float you use is also gonna either make it easier or harder to grab the towel. This is a soft float, and it makes it easier to get the tile clean, because it can the rubber on the edges on the float can conform to the tile a little better, and easier to clean out the tile off an uneven surface. I'm using it's got a section grouted here now. I'm washing it off, and when you're grouting, you want to make sure you wear gloves, because the grout could really dry out your hands if you don't wear gloves. And I'm just cleaning off, rubbing the the grout lines, smoothing them off, cleaning off the grout off the surface of the tile. And then once I got it to a point where it looks good, I'm going to just drag the sponge across it in one direction only, flip the sponge over and drag in one direction only again across another part. And the reason you do this is if you keep on going back and forth, you're going to take the grout off one way, and then when you pull the sponge back across the other way, you're going to put it back on. So in the final rinse, last part of the grouting, you always just pull the sponge in one direction, flip, and then repeat. And then you let it sit up a little bit, and then you rinse it off again with cleaner. So the final step here is caulking, and I always use a color matching caulk. So actually when you put the caulk in, it looks lighter than the grout, and but when it dries it'll be exactly the same color as the grout. In fact, when you grout, the grout itself will look darker when it's wet, and when it dries it looks lighter, and the caulk is the exact opposite. When it's wet it looks lighter, and then when it dries it gets darker. But if you use a color matching caulk when everything is all dry, it looks all exactly the same. And if you use a sanded grout, you use a sanded caulk, and if you use an unsanded grout, you use an unsanded caulk. That's the best way to get everything to match. The end result should be something like this. All done.